Everyone wants to change their life, but very few understand how to do it without giving up along the way. They look for shortcuts, big, fast, instant results. They fill themselves with goals, promises, endless lists of things they'll start on Monday. And when they don't see results in a few days, they get frustrated, blame themselves, and end up quitting. Camilo was like that too. He lived trapped in the cycle of starting with excitement and giving up with guilt. Every year he'd say, "This time will be different." But soon, the excuses came back, the motivation disappeared, and the voice in his head whispered, "See, you can't change." Until one day, he understood something no one had ever explained to him. A secret so simple, it almost sounded absurd. Light bulb improved just 1% each day. It wasn't about changing everything at once or being perfect. It was about moving forward, even slowly, but without stopping. Camilo discovered that real change doesn't happen when you do a lot in one day, but when you do something every day. A small action, a single different decision, repeated consistently, has the power to move mountains over time. And that's when everything began to transform. His routine, his mind, his way of seeing himself. Because he finally realized that great results aren't built in a rush, but with patience, discipline, and faith in the process. Stay until the end. Because when you hear how this small habit changed Camilo's life, you might just start changing yours too. Once upon a time, in a valley surrounded by green mountains and peaceful rivers, there lived a young man named Camilo. He lived in a small adobe house, with a window where the sunrise slipped through the trees like a whisper of hope. His life was simple, almost routine, but inside him, something refused to rest. Every day, he woke up with the same thought. Time is passing, and I'm still in the same place. There were moments when he felt like the whole world was moving forward, while he could barely breathe on the shore of his own dreams. Every morning, he made promises to himself. Promises to change, to start that project he'd been postponing for years, to bring back the habits that once made him feel alive, to be better, to not let life slip through his fingers. But when evening came, and the sky turned orange, those promises withered away with the fading light. Fatigue, doubt, and routine wrapped around him like a veil. "Tomorrow I'll do better," he repeated to himself again and again, not realizing that tomorrow never arrived, because it always disguised itself as another day. He watched how everyone around him seemed to move forward effortlessly. His brother had found a job in the city. The neighbors' children had gone away to study. Even the kids in town, with their backpacks on their shoulders, seemed to have more direction than he did. Meanwhile, his own life felt stuck, like the still water of a well that once dreamed of becoming a river, but now only reflected the passing of time. He wasn't lazy. He was just tired. Tired of starting over and over again without getting anywhere, of trying everything out of impulse, and giving up at the first stumble. Inside him, there was a fire, but he didn't know how to ignite it without getting burned. And every night, as the wind whispered through the mountains, Camilo looked up at the starry sky and silently asked himself, "When will my moment come?" Then came that inner voice that hurt him like an echo impossible to silence. "You're not good enough for this." That phrase followed him like a shadow on cloudy days, slipping through his thoughts, weakening every attempt to start over. Sometimes he tried to ignore it, to distract himself, to pretend he didn't hear it, but it was always there, waiting for the perfect moment to remind him of everything he still wasn't. And though no one knew it, Camilo was fighting a silent battle against himself. He smiled in front of others, but inside, each smile felt like one more effort not to fall apart. He wasn't fighting the world. He was fighting the voice that told him he wasn't enough. The one that was born within him and grew stronger with every failure. One day, on his way home, the wind carried the scent of damp wood and wet earth. The leaves swayed gently, and the sound of the river seemed to whisper something he couldn't quite understand. He walked slowly along the stone path, eyes lost on the ground, until the creak of the old gate pulled him back to the present. As he stepped through, he saw his grandfather in the yard, polishing an old chair with a cloth and a bit of wax. The afternoon sun filtered through the branches, lighting up the wrinkled hands of the old man. Hands that moved with the calm of someone who had long ago learned not to rush. The air smelled of nostalgia and home, as if that moment had paused in time just for him. His grandfather's movements were slow, patient, almost hypnotic. Camilo stood watching him for a few seconds before speaking. "Grandpa, why do you waste time on that? That chair's too old. It's not worth it." The old man lifted his gaze, a peaceful smile spreading across his face, the kind that seemed to come from another lifetime. "Because it can still shine, son. It just needs care." Camilo frowned. "But you can't even tell," he said, discouraged. The old man kept polishing calmly, letting silence speak before replying. "That's because you're looking in a hurry," he finally said in a gentle voice. "What's truly worthwhile never changes all at once. It just needs time, consistency, and a little faith." And in that moment, without fully understanding why, Camilo felt that those words weren't really about the chair, but about him. That night, Camilo couldn't sleep. He tossed and turned in bed while his mind wandered back to the yard, to the sound of the cloth sliding over the wood, to the faint gleam slowly appearing on that old chair, and to his grandfather's calm voice echoing softly in his chest. "What's truly worthwhile doesn't change all at once," he repeated in silence, letting that phrase blend with the wind rattling against the window. Maybe he didn't need to do it all today. Maybe, he thought, he just needed to start a little. Not with grand goals or suffocating promises, but with a small, almost invisible gesture, done with constancy, like his grandfather polishing that chair. And with that thought tangled in his tiredness, he finally closed his eyes without feeling in debt to the day. The next morning, he woke up earlier than usual. The sun barely brushed the rooftops, and the valley's shadows stretched slowly. The air smelled of wood and dew, and the silence carried a different kind of calm. When he stepped into the yard, he saw his grandfather again, seated, focused, rubbing the wood with infinite patience, as if time itself had decided to rest beside him. "It looks like it's starting to shine," Camilo said with a timid smile, as if that spark of light were also awakening inside him. The old man looked up, and with the serenity that only years can bring, replied, "See, everything responds to consistency, not to force." Camilo lowered his gaze, thoughtful. "Sometimes I feel like everything I try slips away," he confessed quietly. "I want to change, but something inside me keeps pulling me back." His grandfather smiled faintly, as if he already knew that battle well. "That happens when you confuse transformation with speed," he said, adjusting the cloth over the wood. "It's not about doing a lot. It's about doing always." Then he ran his fingers over the surface and pointed. "See these scratches? They don't disappear, but with every coat of wax, they soften. You don't erase them, you make them part of the shine." Camilo watched in silence. Those marks, once imperfections, now caught the light differently, as if they carried stories within them. "That's how life is," the grandfather continued. "Wounds don't vanish, they transform. And if you learn to polish them with patience, one day you'll see that even pain can shine." Camilo swallowed hard and asked in a trembling voice, "And what if someone no longer has the strength to keep going?" The old man paused for a moment, took a deep breath, and said, "Then do less. But don't stop. There are days meant for taking a step, and others just for breathing. But both count, if you do them with intention." Those words engraved themselves in his mind like a promise. They didn't sound like a lesson, but like a truth his soul had always known. And from that day on, Camilo began differently, not trying to change everything, but just a little each day. One page read, one extra push-up, one kind gesture, one small act done with presence. Tiny things that, without him realizing, began to transform his world. And for the first time, he understood that change doesn't come suddenly. It arrives quietly, like the shine that grows upon the wood, when someone has the patience to keep polishing. As the days went by, something began to change in Camilo, though almost no one noticed. He no longer woke up with that hollow rush he used to feel, but with a quiet calm, like someone who understands that the sunrise never hurries to be beautiful. His steps were slower now, but also steadier. And for the first time, the mirror didn't reflect a lost young man, but someone who was beginning to find himself. At times, he still felt the weight of his old thoughts. That voice that said, "You're not good enough for this," still appeared, like a distant echo refusing to die. But now, Camilo no longer faced it with anger. He met it with silence. He had learned that not every battle is won by fighting. Some are won simply by staying on your feet. Every afternoon, he helped his grandfather with small chores, cleaning the tools, gathering firewood, fixing the hinges on the old gate. They were simple tasks, almost insignificant, but within them, he found a kind of peace. His grandfather didn't speak much, yet every gesture seemed to carry a quiet lesson. Camilo realized that consistency wasn't a burden, it was a language, one that the soul learns only when it stops running. One day, as the sun hid behind the mountains, his grandfather paused and looked at him with tenderness. "Do you know what you're doing, Camilo?" he asked. "Helping you, I suppose," Camilo replied. "No, son, you're polishing yourself," said the old man with a soft smile. Camilo looked at him, puzzled, and the grandfather continued. "Just like the chair shines with time, so will you. You only need to keep applying the wax of patience." That night, Camilo went back to his room and looked out the window. The stars seemed clearer, as if the universe itself whispered that he was finally moving in the right direction. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and for the first time in a long while, he slept peacefully, not because everything was perfect, but because he finally understood something. Change doesn't begin when everything is fixed. It begins when you choose not to give up, even when nothing seems to move. As the weeks went by, the valley seemed different, though nothing had really changed. The trees were still green, the river still sang its ancient song, and the mountains still watched from afar. But inside Camilo, something had been set alight. It was as if the whole world had regained its color, not because the world had changed, but because he had learned to see it differently. Every morning, he walked along the path that led to the river. At first, he went just to clear his mind, but soon it became a ritual. There, among the murmur of the water and the scent of damp earth, he found answers no book had ever given him. He learned that the river never grows impatient with the stones. It embraces them, flows around them, and keeps moving. And he realized that life was the same. Obstacles aren't meant to be destroyed, but gently navigated with calm and grace. He began writing in an old notebook he found in a wooden box. He filled its pages with thoughts, promises, and small victories. Today, I didn't give up. Today, I tried again. Today, I was grateful. Little by little, those simple phrases became the reflection of his new way of living. It was no longer about waiting for big changes. It was about celebrating the small steps. One day, while his grandfather watched from the porch, he said in a steady voice, "I see something different in you, boy." Camilo smiled and lowered his gaze. "Maybe I'm starting to shine," he replied shyly. His grandfather let out a soft laugh. "Not maybe. You are. See that glow? It's not sunlight. It's the reflection of your effort." That afternoon, Camilo continued polishing the chair beside his grandfather. But this time, he wasn't thinking about how long it would take to make it shine. He already knew the glow never comes all at once. And patience, too, is a form of love. As the cloth moved over the wood, he realized that, just like that chair, he too was being polished. Each mistake made him wiser. Each attempt made him stronger. And each day, a little more free. Time passed, and though his house remained the same, Camilo no longer was. His days were now filled with purpose, not haste. And whenever doubt came back to visit, he simply remembered his grandfather's words. "Do less if you must, but don't stop." Then he would breathe, smile, and take one more step forward. Months passed, and the valley began to dress in autumn. The leaves fell like small golden farewells, and the air carried the scent of burning wood. Camilo continued with his simple routines, unaware that while trying to improve just a little each day, he had built something far greater: discipline, calm, and faith in himself. But one day, life decided to test him. A fierce storm struck the village during the night. The river rose higher than usual, carrying logs and stones with a roar that shook the ground. When Camilo stepped outside at dawn, he saw that part of his grandfather's workshop had been damaged. The tools were scattered, and the chair they had polished so lovingly lay on the ground, covered in mud. For a moment, he felt a knot in his chest. That old voice whispered again. It was all for nothing. All your effort, gone. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and remembered. He remembered the shine of the cloth, the calm of the river, and his grandfather's words. What's truly valuable doesn't change overnight, but it also doesn't disappear in a single day. Then, without thinking too much, he grabbed a bucket of water and began to clean the chair. Each stroke of the cloth was a silent affirmation. "I won't give up. I can start again." The mud slowly loosened, and beneath it, the shine remained. untouched, waiting for him. When his grandfather saw him from the doorway, he simply nodded, with a proud smile and eyes glistening with emotion. No words were needed. They both knew that the chair was no longer just wood. It was a symbol of everything they had learned. In time, the workshop was rebuilt, and in one corner, that chair shone brighter than ever, not because it was perfect, but because it was full of history. Camilo looked at it every morning before leaving, and it was like looking into a mirror. He knew that he, too, had weathered storms, yet he was still standing. One afternoon, as the sun sank behind the mountains, his grandfather said, "You know, son, we all want to change the world, but true change begins when you change yourself." Camilo looked at him and replied with a calm voice, "And for that, all it takes is improving just 1% every day." The old man smiled. "Exactly. What matters most isn't how much you shine, but that you keep polishing." That night, Camilo went back to his room, opened his notebook, and wrote, "Today I understood that consistency is also a form of love, that you don't need to run to arrive, just keep walking with purpose." He closed the notebook, looked out the window, and saw the moon reflected on the river. The water kept flowing, patient, steady, free. And in that reflection, he felt for the first time that he no longer needed to change his life, because his life, little by little, was already changing. He no longer needed reminders, because the message now lived within him. He had understood that being consistent isn't about doing a lot. It's about not giving up on what truly matters. And with that certainty, Camilo stood up, gazing into the distance at the gentle shine of the chair. It seemed simple, but in that reflection, his entire story could be read. His doubts, his stumbles, his progress, and his quiet transformation. If today you feel the same as yesterday, don't be harsh on yourself. Remember, life doesn't change in leaps, it changes in steps. Every small effort, every decision, every act of faith is a seed that will one day bloom, even if you can't see it growing yet. Maybe you can't see the shine now, but every day, without realizing it, you're polishing something within yourself. It's not a fall. It's your soul gathering momentum. And if this story touched something in you, if it reminded you that there's still time to try again, share it with someone who needs to believe in their own rhythm once more. Tell me in the comments, what is the 1% you'll start working on today? Because maybe, without knowing it, your story will also inspire another soul who needs to hear the same truth. You don't have to do everything perfectly. Just keep polishing one day at a time.